Alright guys, so today we're going to be reviewing the Vizio OLED as quickly as possible, so smack a like on this video because I'm getting to the point right now. Okay, so as you guys saw, the unboxing process in part 1 of the review cycle was not very good, so it's just going to be really cumbersome. While it's good that they have a lot of styrofoam and a bunch of other things I covered in that video, I still think that the unboxing process could be a lot simple. But the one thing that makes it unacceptable is the fact that Vizio, for their stand, the part that is holding the TV, I think it's really bad that they have a sharp piece that goes to the base of the stand, and I've cut myself twice on this thing. It's a really sharp object, and there needs to be some sort of safety warning on this because it can really lacerate your skin. The level of sharpness of this thing is basically a plastic knife they've shipped, and I don't think that's going to be represented fairly by a lot of the reviewers you're going to see. Like, seriously, I cut myself like twice over on this thing and it drew blood. So I think you might really want to be careful with this TV, especially unpacking it and setting it up. You won't think about it, but it really is quite dangerous. Now, the repacking process is, again, just as inconvenient as most TVs on the market right now. You'll have to get tape and walk around the entirety of the box if you have any issues like I did. So while a little dizzying, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is annoying when other manufacturers use clips to secure the box or just tape on top, like one singular piece of tape, and you can move on about your day. So not my favorite thing there. The reflection handling on this TV, as you guys saw, was pretty much what you can expect from an OLED. So while it's not a mirror, it definitely does the job well enough of diffusing a lot of the reflections that you can see that would be distracting. But again, not perfect for something with really bright reflections like bright windows or a home filled with windows. I wouldn't recommend opening it up and being on full blast. The TV does have a good amount of brightness to get around that, but I wouldn't recommend it. Now, out of the box, you can get a pretty good experience if you know how to dial in your TV, not even professionally, just you know what to look for. And you can set it up pretty good without needing a professional calibration done to the grayscale or anything like that. And it will look pretty good. Now, once you calibrate this television, it's mind-blowing, so that's something to note here. Though I will do a special note here for out of the box. If you are just using the out-of-the-box picture presets, they look terrible and they're absolutely disgusting, something that, again, I wish manufacturers would stop doing. They need to learn how to really button up these TVs because right now they don't have that sauce down yet. So do keep that in mind. Now, again, once we do a calibration, it looks wonderful. It beat my Sony A8G Bravia OLED, and it beats LG OLED easily. So that's something that you might want to think about as well if you're shopping around and you're just looking for the best picture quality. Now, the image quality overall is exceptional, but there are some things that we do need to talk about. But before that, I just want to note that an additional note when you're setting up your settings and all that stuff, you have additional picture presets that you can name yourself and create. So I like to use, a lot of anime content. I made anime setting, one for the Xbox, one for HDR films that only activates when HDR films hit. It hits. It's just wonderful. Vizio is doing something game changing, and everybody needs to take notice here because that is how you do picture presets. Don't give us like 5 or 6 of them and call it a day. Let us create our own based around what presets you already have there, giving us the perfect look for every kind of source box we're using. That, again, best thing about Vizio right now. Now, when you talk about black levels are really good because, again, it's an OLED. I didn't notice any major black crushing. I noticed some and some really stress testing scenes, but overall it was pretty exceptional once I dialed it in. And then the gray uniformity was really surprisingly good. I noticed that on a full gray screen, I had no issues whatsoever. No vertical banding, no vignetting. That was really distracting. I mean, maybe an argument can be made for slight vignetting if you really are pixel peeping, but honestly, it was very clean. And even on a 5% near black gray screen, it looked really, really clean. Now, when we talk about color was pretty good. I didn't have any complaints there. It blew my mind and looked like quantum dot color because of the highlights and the brightness this thing is throwing out. It just looked insane and amazing. The contrast and the clarity was more of the same, and it does good with gradation, so there's no real banding except on low bitrate content. Input lag was really responsive. I have no complaints there. And when you're talking about upscaling for multimedia content, I think, again, it does a really good job without being blocky and showing a lot of aliasing. You know, the input resolution for PC is what you can expect. There was 1440 120, there was 1080 120, there was 4K 60, so nothing crazy there. I don't have a way of testing HDMI 2.1, the NVIDIA 3090 and 3080, 37, those graphics cards, the 30 series graphics cards have not released yet, so I have no way of testing those resolutions, but for what we know, it's pretty acceptable, at least as far as HDMI 2.0 goes. Motion was pretty good. Once you dial in the motion settings, it gets smoother than what it is out of the box. Out of the box, it's unacceptable. It's nothing that I would write home about. In general, motion is in the bad territory out of the box without any motion processing on. So if you hate the quotation mark soap opera effect, you can't get good motion. Now, I say motion gets good because it cleans up a fair bit, and there are moments where it's good, but even with motion processing on, it can be bad at times too. So it's a bittersweet when we talk about motion on this TV, and honestly, this is something Vizio has always struggled with, and they still do. The audio in this TV is pretty bad, one of the worst I've ever heard, so if you're looking for this as a standalone speaker and you're not looking to invest in a soundbar or a sound system, this is not ideal, and I would recommend buying a better sound system. The weight of this TV is pretty heavy, considering that it's an OLED. I didn't expect that, so do keep that in mind, especially if you're buying the 65-inch. You may need two people to lift this up. There is always going to be a risk of burn-in on this display because it's an OLED, it's organic, and you guys know the drill with that. And I'm worried about the extra brightness that this TV does kick out. I think that that may contribute to it down the line, having more burn-in issues, but only time will tell, though it is a risk. The build quality in general, though, is pretty nice, pretty decent, what you can expect. I would say it's entry-level OLED material, nothing too crazy or fancy. The remote, the features, all of them are pretty good. I didn't notice any sluggishness when using the user interface or anything like that. It was pretty clean to me. I had no problems outside of the picture modes locking because it's not recognizing game mode correctly, which is a big no-go. And, you know, when I'm using Xbox, when I'm using PlayStation and my picture modes are locking, core picture modes, that's where ultimately I lose my patience. Now, I had a glitch where the picture quality just kind of went out on me, and all I heard was audio. And then from there, it switched to the audio went out, and I just had picture. And nothing changed it, and the speakers basically died. And that was within 3 days of owning the TV, so I boxed it up, sent it back. Customer service from Vizio is horrible. If you ever have to deal with them, they're very nasty, and that should factor into how you go about buying this TV because they are the nastiest individuals I honestly have ever met, like right up there with Sony customer service. Like it's pretty bad. So don't expect to be treated like you matter with Vizio, at least from a customer service perspective. Now, is it worth it for the price point? The answer, short answer, yes and no. Yes, if all you're doing is watching movies and you're willing to accept some growing pains for software patches to get released down the road. No, if you're paying $1,300 after taxes and expecting it to be perfect for the 55-inch variant, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd say keep looking or wait till next year. Vizio got real close with this TV, and I definitely felt like it made me a believer in a lot of areas, particularly picture quality of what OLED is capable of, but ultimately it just failed to deliver that extra sauce that I'm looking for.